for me, it's all about connection. So using things like family photos, those photo albums, favorite songs, as just mentioned, music is a huge part of life that can all really spark lovely conversations and memories. So even if someone doesn't remember the specific details,
Specifics.
specific, you say it for me, those feelings in that moment can be really powerful. And sometimes, yeah, we can get really caught up in trying to make something perfect and, arranging the baubles on the tree in the way that we like,
Yeah,
or the decorations, the food, the timing. But putting those things aside, it's the small shared moments of laughter or calm that can really mean the most. So focusing on connection rather than perfection, which isn't easy to do, may really help someone to enjoy a celebration.
Okie dokie. Well, thank you to all of you who have joined us. It is lovely to see you all again, and welcome to our Unpacking Dementia session. So today's session, we're going to be talking about the festive season that is up and coming. I'm delighted to be joined by two very special guests today who are also colleagues of mine. So I know Manpreet and Danine incredibly well, but we're really lucky to have their expertise with us. So Danine, let's come to you. Introduce yourself to our viewers. Tell us a little bit about yourself.
Oh, thanks, Ruth. Hi, welcome everybody. I'm Danine. I work with Ruth and Manpreet at Dementia Adventure. And my background stems across working in healthcare settings and community settings, implementing and designing interventions for people living with dementia. So I've got a very festive and colourful background to all the work that I've done. And I brought that along to DA to work with Ruth and Manpreet.
Thanks, Danine. And Manpreet, although some of our viewers may already know you because you work very closely with me on our session, our carer sessions, don't you? But for those who don't, tell us a little bit about yourself.
Lovely, thank you. So my name's Manpreet. I'm the Dementia Research Lead here at Dementia Adventure and have been here for 2.5 years. My role is really to keep up to date with dementia research and together with the voices of lived experience to bring that knowledge to Dementia Adventure to improve our services for people affected by dementia.
Lovely, thanks. So just before we start, a little bit of housekeeping. Please do ask questions as you go through today's session. We will do our absolute best to answer those within this. But if we don't get around to your question, don't worry, we will come back to you at the end as well. You can do this by using the chat function, and that will be monitored throughout. And as always, I'd just like to say a quick shout out and thank you to Right at Home for sponsoring our Unpacking Dementia series. So let's get started. And we are literally heading full on to a season of celebrations from Bonfire Night through to Hanukkah, Christmas, and we've just had Diwali. So we know that all these moments can bring joy, but they can also bring some challenges, can't they, for people living with dementia? So Danine, I'm going to ask you, tell us why some of these celebrations can feel overwhelming for people living with dementias and their families.
Oh, thanks, Ruth. Yeah, I think, setting the scene, even though well-meaning activity and engagement is exciting and tensions can be running really high, some of this can become very stressful, but you don't need to be hard on yourself. You need to bear in mind that because some triggers that exist could cause some stress, just have a little think about the potentials that sensory overload might bring. The festive events involve lots of bright lights, loud music, lots of crowd, different invitations, lots of movement. All of this can overstimulate the senses. There's also the change in routine. You may have that routine that's fixed and you know that your relative or your friend that you're supporting really works well and enjoys that routine, and suddenly that routine is just out the window because you've got to go in the car for a little bit, or you've got to journey somewhere for a bit, or you're going to be in a different environment where the routine just can't be met. There may also be settings where there's unfamiliar faces, loud gatherings, large gatherings, people that they may not recognise, places that they're not familiar with as well. And I think it's really important just to bear in mind that you don't have to accept every invitation that comes your way. It is okay to say no. And it is also okay to let the host or hostess know that you're supporting someone who is living with dementia and that they may not recognise everybody that's in the room. And perhaps there can be some supports put in place and some interventions put in place so that everybody does know who everybody is. That could be wearing a badge, or that could be introducing yourself through a game or some kind of activity when you all arrive. There's also the communication challenge. When there's a lot of people together, it may be making it hard to hear or follow instructions or being able to participate. And then there's the emotional triggers that lots of these festive celebrations can open up those memories of past celebrations, past loved ones, people who are no longer present, and that can cause some sadness and also some confusion between past and present. Then at the end of the day, we all know how it feels to be tired, fatigued, and you just want to have your own space. So just bear in mind that an event that goes on for just too long or too late in the day can actually increase that feeling of tiredness.
Absolutely. I couldn't agree more, because I think the reality is in this time of year, it's so busy for all of us, isn't it? And actually, I know in that caring role, it's exhausting, and you do feel those obligations. Like, you do want to see people, of course you do, and be a part of these festivities. There's so much to be bought for, so much joy to be bought from that. But actually, the pressure for both that person with dementia and within that caring role can be absolutely huge. Manpreet, I'm going to come to you. How do you think you can recognise if that person living with dementia is becoming overwhelmed? Is there things that people can look for that can really help them to think, actually, maybe now's the time to pull back, or maybe now's the time to offer that quiet space?
Yeah, excuse me, absolutely. I think one of the first signs to look out for is a change in how the person is behaving or interacting. So you might notice that a person seems more restless than usual, maybe pacing around or fidgeting. Their eating habits might not be the same. Some people might be able to communicate their feelings and say, I feel overwhelmed, but others might withdraw. They may go quiet, they may want to move away from the group or show signs of, irritability or frustration, even anger. And that might be their way of saying, this is getting too much for me. So looking out for those early cues of restlessness can really help before somebody does feel completely overwhelmed.
Yeah, absolutely. And Ray's just contacted us in the chat, and he said that he's having to actually say no to quite a number of family get-together these days because his wife just doesn't cope very well with large numbers of people anymore. And I think, on a personal note, actually, for me, I understand that. I'm obviously not living with dementia, but large groups of people is overwhelming. And I think sometimes it can be really quite nice, and we get the best, don't we, when we have smaller groups of people, or maybe just close friends or
Yeah.
close families, and do a few more interactions, but with fewer people. Sometimes that can often work for people.
Yeah.
So, what are some of the things that families can do to make spaces calmer and more dementia friendly? Manpreet, I'm going to start with you on that one. What
Yeah,
would you
so one
recommend?
thing that families can do is to plan a calm space that the person can move to if things get a little bit too busy for them. So that could be a quiet room with softer lighting, or just somewhere familiar to them where that person feels comfortable. In terms of decorations and things, using familiar scents or sounds like that favorite candle or a calming piece of music that can really help to ground someone, but also keep the enjoyment of the day there too. Music is central in all celebrations, but keeping it at a gentle volume, avoiding sudden bright lights or loud noises, can really help to make a difference to the day. Um,
Definitely.
and again,
Yeah,
sorry, I
go
was
on.
just going to say with decorations, perhaps maybe not making lots of changes can also be helpful, but also quite importantly, pacing the day. So giving plenty of opportunities for breaks, allowing time for rest. It's perfectly okay for things to be slower. It's okay not to do everything that perhaps you once did do. And as we just mentioned, but focusing on the enjoyment of one or two activities or traditions may be more meaningful than trying to do it all.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think we've always talked on our carer sessions about, maybe not decorating every single room as
Yeah.
well. Having a room that is just familiar and, like, I guess for want of a better word, normal,
Normal,
looks like it always
absolutely.
does, can be really
Yeah.
beneficial. And Danine, I'm going to come to you because I think Deb's contacted us, and she's asked for suggestions on how carers can involve other family members, particularly children and younger
Yeah.
people, on actually how they can support in in a kind of inclusive way. How can they be more supportive to ensure
Yeah.
that everybody understands the need for this and why that's important?
Yeah, that's great. Well, I think it's a really lovely time to have that opportunity to tell stories. And I think for children to be with older people, to listen to stories and also to tell their own stories, it works both ways. So I really feel that you could use the opportunity for people to actually share, be involved in storytelling. And you may want to get some cards, you may want to have some prompts so that younger people can use the cards and they could show them to their relative who might be living with dementia. Tell me a little bit about how you celebrated Christmas, or what did you do when it was Hanukkah, or how do you celebrate Diwali? And let the person living with dementia actually tell their story. Let them enjoy, create that moment of joy where you can actually allow them to reminisce and to talk about their traditions that are fond and are meaningful to them. It's about engaging in meaningful conversation, creating those opportunities where you can actually have really lovely time together. And if that means sitting in that quiet, calm space while all the preparation and all the bustle is going on somewhere else, but they're not alone, they're with someone, that is really joyful, and they're still participating in that day. So that is really great, really special. I think
Actually what you're saying there is absolutely key, because we learn about our family, don't we? And we keep those stories going as well. And there's such a lovely experience for both that person who may not be finding that, like, you know, the situation particularly easy, but actually for children to hear and learn as well. I've seen many a time my kids learnt from my granddad about all sorts of things he got up to in his childhood, and we still talk about that now. So there's real legacy in doing that, isn't there?
Yeah, it means so much, as you say, Ruth, on both sides. And I think it's also really important to educate our younger relatives and our young people in our families that it doesn't matter if the person living with dementia has got something wrong. It's okay if they make a mistake in what they're saying, and if the story doesn't quite fit, or if they're muddling up people, it doesn't matter, that's okay. And maybe the younger person needs to understand that they ought not to correct them, but just listen, because it's about listening and engaging in that conversation that is the meaning. It's not about creating that confrontational moment where you're correcting someone and making them potentially feel even more stressed and a difficult situation because they've got muddled with who's who and where are they and how did that story fit in. Let them tell their story in their way, and those who are cognitively able are able to adapt the story to how it should be. They can fit it into the place, and so they can actually hold it and create that story and that memory.
No, that's lovely. Thank you. And I think that brings us really nicely onto another topic that I'd like to talk about it, and that is adapting those traditions, but making them meaningful and inclusive. And actually, we've got a question from Kay asking around Christmas in particular, but are there particular activities that work really well? Is there things that we could do? So, Danine, I'm going to hand this one over to you
Yeah.
first of all.
Thanks, Ruth. Yes, I mean, I think because of my own experience working in residential care homes and community settings for more than a decade, leading activities and interventions for people living with dementia, things that are very engaging, things that people can actually sit at a table or you can sit at a chair with a lap table on their lap, busy doing something, stimulating fine motor skills, maybe making paper chains, maybe setting the table, maybe folding the napkins. All of these things are activities that people living with dementia love to be involved with, and they want to be part of it. They don't want to be excluded. They want to feel like they're actually making an impact and actually contributing. Give them some baubles and let's all share with decorating the Christmas tree or the room with tinsel. And if the person who you're supporting is not sure what to do, then show them. Take the bauble, put it on the tree yourself and say, look, this is how we're decorating the Christmas tree. I'm putting the bauble on the tree. Now you do it. And give the person the bauble for them to then do. So use the cues and then be patient and wait for them to be able to decorate the tree too. So it's all about making adaptations and being patient. Patience is a virtue. I think it's really important when we are short of time and we're trying to get the house ready because the guests are arriving. It's very easy for us to just do things for the person all the time, but we need to just step back and allow that person to do it themselves and just let them have that time to be able to engage. Other
I think
ideas,
on
yeah,
an addition to that, I think, you know, I've seen it work really well when people project manage. So, you know, asking that relation, where should I put this? Let's go, like, you pick out the colours and tell me where they need to be. Do you know what I mean? And sort of
yeah,
like, okay, what do we do? Where should I hang this? And just having that input into, because often there is physical challenges as well, but
yeah,
actually that doesn't mean somebody can't still be included. It means that we can
exactly.
expand that. And I think Isabella's tip as well, she's popped that her husband loves watching old movies at Christmas. So again, it's inviting, isn't it? Maybe having an old movie on in the background, popping that Christmas music on lightly. So it just sets the scene a little bit doesn't it? For sure.
Exactly. And I think also it's very important to have that grounding feeling so that someone
Yeah.
feels secure and present in the moment, especially if they are feeling a little bit disorientated or a bit anxious. And there's various different grounding interventions that you can try, especially when it comes to the sensory intervention, sensory stimulation, touching something, smelling something. I've got a little bag here of some potpourri that's scented with the Christmas smells. Just having some bags of these dotted around, or even asking your relative or the person you're supporting to fill these with the dried leaves that are going inside is a really lovely activity to do. And then touch as well, sight, sound, as you said before, Ruth, playing a familiar tune or humming the music. Music's a really powerful way to connect. Even if the words are forgotten, the melody is often remaining.
Very much so. Would you add to that, Manpreet? Do you think there's anything else that we can do to support keeping those, those traditions meaningful still?
Yeah, absolutely. I love the idea of sitting down with a movie and just having that familiar feeling. But for me, it's all about connection. So using things like family photos, those photo albums, favorite songs, as Danine just mentioned, music is a huge part of life that can all really spark lovely conversations and memories. So even if
Mm.
someone doesn't remember the specific details,
Specifics.
specific you say it for me, those feelings in that moment can be really powerful. And sometimes, yeah, we can get really caught up in trying to make something perfect and, arranging the baubles on the tree in the way that we like, or
Yeah,
the
doesn't have
decorations,
to.
the food, the timing. But putting those things aside, it's the small shared moments of laughter or calm that can really mean the most. So focusing on connection rather than perfection, which isn't easy to do, may really help someone to enjoy a celebration.
Absolutely. No, I couldn't agree
Definitely.
with you more. And I think, are there some simple things that families can do just to make those spaces more calm, more dementia friendly as we go through? Like, how would you, in a practical sense, how would we set up that quiet space? What would that look like when we've got, 10 or 12 family members? Some of those are, really little kids. We know that these times are magical when children are about because it
Yeah.
is seeing, all those generations together and enjoying those traditions. But actually, how do we, in a practical sense, really make that meaningful? But do we make that quiet space?
Yeah. I think it's important to maintain that essence of the cherished tradition, but to simplify it and potentially make it shorter. Try to keep with the routine of the person. So if their daily routine, when you're looking at meal times and rest periods, it might be a better rhythm to stick to having a lunch celebration instead of an evening meal, so that that person is also part of that celebration and connects with the family and has that opportunity to be together. Activities can be introduced in a very gentle way with prompts. I've got some cards here that I just wanted to show. So in the Jewish tradition, there's a lot of candle lighting over the festival of Hanukkah, and you could prompt somebody by saying, now we're going to light the candles like we do every year. And at the same time, you can present a little card where there's a picture of the candles and the words at the top, we are lighting the candles. So using all these little tricks, these interventions, they can help support the person so that they feel included and they are part of that family celebration.
I really love that because I think it gives somebody the opportunity, actually, if we've got that written down as well, it doesn't mean somebody's got to keep up with that verbal
Yeah,
conversation. It actually gives us something we can hand to somebody and they can then process that
yeah,
in their own time. And it might mean coming back to that conversation or, getting some questions about that maybe a little bit later down the line. But actually, I really love that idea of that physical, this is what we're doing and this is why. And then we've always got that opportunity to offer, actually, would you like to do this as well, and sort of reading the room a bit, haven't we? And I think Hugo has highlighted again yet another celebration, but birthdays are a big one. And I think,
yeah,
I mean, I've got multiple family birthdays in December. It's a real nightmare, but that's even more focused, isn't it? Particularly when somebody's living with dementia. And Hugo shared that actually he would, like his wife would become really upset because she didn't understand what was going on. And
yeah,
particularly when that focus is very determined. And I think thinking about birthdays, what can be lovely is not not celebrating, but actually enjoying everybody's company. I think it's coming back to what you were saying, Manpreet, isn't it? It's about, community. It's about pulling together.
Yeah.
Maybe not the focus on it's your birthday. It's actually today we're going to spend some time together, and and just changing that focus slightly to enable that person to join in.
Yeah.
So, no, that's been really, really helpful. So there is such a big mix of celebrations. And I'm going to ask, what are some of the common threads that families can use to keep these things inclusive? So I think it's really rounding up what we've talked about, isn't it? What for you, Danine, I'll come to you first, feel is actually, if somebody has got a takeaway from today's session, what do you think is really important for people to take away?
I think a couple of things. I think, as echoing what Manpreet said, I think celebrate being together. I think that is the most powerful tradition of all. And we all, as families, we all do things in our own style, in our own way. And I think that's what's really special. You've got to celebrate doing those lovely traditions that you have in your way, and celebrate the moment of joy that you're creating at that time. And be flexible. If the practice or the tradition just feels too much for that one day, then come back to it another time, whether it's later or the next day, or even just when it's not the time of celebration and you just want to talk about it again. I think it's absolutely brilliant to just be flexible and to just create moments of joy, even in the simplest form.
Yeah, 100%. And Manpreet, would you add to that?
Yeah, I think this time of year is just full of celebrations, isn't it? From so many different cultures. But there are some really common, beautiful threads between all of those things, like light, warmth, food. They're at the heart of nearly every tradition. For me, I would say connection over perfection. So you don't have to do everything or make it all look flawless, because there is a lot of pressure, isn't there? There's a lot of societal pressure to make a celebration the best one ever. But sometimes the most meaningful moments just come from slowing down and being together.
Yeah, 100%. And I think to extend on that slightly, coming from the perspective of, working with carers, I know the immense pressure that, when we're in that position of caring for somebody, we feel, because we're not only managing the invitations, we also have the pressure that we should attend, and we should also have that pressure that, we want to make sure everybody has a nice time, but actually we've got to support that person in our lives living with dementia to be able to access that. So I think for me, it's really about starting, at the beginning again and saying, actually, if on the day it's not a good day, don't be afraid to have those conversations. And it doesn't necessarily mean, no, we're not going to go. It might mean, do you know what? Can you bear with us? We might pop in for 10 minutes, but actually we might not be able to. Or if we get up and leave early, please bear with us. And I think having really upfront conversations about what dementia looks like for the person you're supporting can make all the difference. And actually family members, friends are often far more understanding than we think they're going to be. It's often, I think, that lack of knowledge about that person's situation that creates the confusion. But when we start to share, actually, this is really challenging on this aspect or that aspect, people 9 times out of 10 will go, do you know what? Yeah, I absolutely understand. That's fine. And that's inclusive of children as well. It's amazing how resilient and understanding children can be around these particular times. And actually, do you know what? It's also amazing how overwhelming it is for them and us as a family. So, sometimes there's almost a little bit of relief for everybody to kind of go, do you know what? It's okay to say, actually, this has been lovely, but now I think I'm going to pull back, and actually we need some normality again. So I think from my perspective, that's equally as important as well. But it's been lovely to unpick this with you guys today, because I think it's a really daunting time of year, but it's a really magical time of year as well. But actually it goes on for some months sometimes, doesn't it? So thank you ever so much. I really, really do appreciate today. And I hope for you guys who have joined us, this has been a really helpful discussion. And thank you all for sharing your experiences and asking your questions with us. As always, if we haven't quite got round to you, don't worry, we absolutely will do. And we will also be putting a blog together to come out and support the information that we've given you today. So we'll be signposting you and giving you lots of tips and advice on there. But once again, it's lovely to see you all. Do enjoy your festive periods, do enjoy your festivities, and we'll see you on another session in the future. Thanks a lot. Take care.
Thank you. Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.